We're fairly certain Nick Newman is innocent of killing Damien on The Young and the Restless, but Nick's portrayer, Joshua Morrow, is simply slaying his scenes as tensions at Kane's chateau are on the rise. Soap Central is bestowing our Performer of the Week for Y&R honors on Morrow, for Nick's realistic reaction to a surreal situation. Imagine how you'd react if you went to a mysterious mogul's overseas estate only to find out that the gala was being thrown by someone with whom you were already acquainted. Also, there's no way to get out, and an innocent man has been murdered. You might start reacting like Nick Newman has been, fed up. Morrow has played Nick for over 30 years. He's been consistent in bringing to life his character's good guy persona. Nick's a man who loves and protects his family. Morrow, a dedicated family man off-screen, makes playing Nick look easy, but that in no way should diminish the actor's talent. Morrow, however, makes you believe that Nick truly is going through this surreal charade. First, he was, at best, bemused by the development that Dumas was, in reality, Kane Ashby. He chowed down on the gourmet food and enjoyed the festivities. However, even in scenes where he may not have had a lot of lines, we could see Nick slowly growing frustrated over being trapped in Kane's crib. He quipped that the trip to France had jumped the shark after Lily revealed that Kane thought that someone was out to kill him. Nick's irritation grew into anger when he found the weapon that presumably killed Damien in a plastic bag in his train car bathroom. Morrow wisely intensified Nick's stance. Forget being inconvenienced with no cell phone service and no way to get back down the mountain. Nick was livid that someone was trying to pin the evil deed on him. Kane planted evidence framing me for Damien's murder, Nick maintained. Sharon and Phyllis tried talking him down, but the intensity that Morrow brought to his scenes made for a convincing case that Nick is spot on. The Friday tag is key to enticing viewers to tune in again on Monday. To use a sports metaphor, Y&R gave Morrow the ball to close out the last show of the week, and he ran it into the end zone. Nick proclaimed that he will blow this whole thing wide open before somebody else gets hurt or worse. Bravo to Morrow for delivering a Friday closer that will surely get viewers back on Monday. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. Next week on The Young and the Restless, Nick has gotten himself into more trouble than he anticipated. Here's a look ahead at the episodes we'll see from July 21st to Friday, July 25th, 2025. On The Young and the Restless, Nick may have incriminated himself when he found a bloody knife wrapped in plastic in his train car bathroom. Would anyone ever have found it if he hadn't? We'll never know now that he gave it to chance, and the other guests are finding out about it. Thanks to Nick's honesty and desire to find the real killer, he may have endangered himself. Nick gets a knock on his train car door and opens it to find Kane's assistant, Carter, and what may be a henchman. Carter insists that Nick comes with them, and it looks like he might not have much choice. Where will they take him? Somewhere he can't leave, it seems, as Carter puts Nick on house arrest. Lily and Audra are concerned about Damien's murder, and their nerves are on edge. When they hear something in the maze behind them, they get a jump scare. Are they in danger? Victor and Chance need answers quickly, but Chance has no idea of what to do about the murder. Victor, on the other hand, wants to zero in on the Kane's employees. Somewhere on that estate, someone knows something, and Victor is going to find out what. Carter joins Victor and Chance on the train car and answers their questions, including whether or not he'd kill or cover up a murder for his boss, Kane. Amanda is shocked when she finds Kane going through security footage in his office. When she sees the video cut out right as Damien is murdered, she advises her boss that he better not be deleting footage. But Amanda is more shocked when Kane accuses her of being the one deleting the security cam videos. The Young and the Restless recap for Monday, July 21st, reveals that Sharon Newman and Nick Newman will become Carter's prisoners, while Kyle Abbott ruins Audra Charles' seduction scheme. First on Monday's Y&R episode, Kyle and Audra will move their makeout session over to the bed. It'll seem like Audra and Kyle are about to cross an even more passionate line, but then Kyle will pull back and admit he's on to Audra. Kyle will call out Audra's attempt to seduce him and think it's pretty low of her to use Damien Kane's death as part of her plot. Audra will insist she was genuinely scared and distraught before denying that there was a plot at all. However, Kyle will assume Audra's Vibrante funding was dependent on her blowing up his relationship with Claire Newman and breaking his agreement with Victor Newman. After Kyle makes it clear that he loves Claire too deeply to throw it away for a fling with Audra, he'll suggest that he was testing Audra and now knows she'd go all the way. Audra will continue to deny that she was playing Kyle and will think he was just as into what happened between them, but he'll insist it's game over and plan to tell Victor she lost. In the end, Audra will stomp out of Kyle's sleeping car with an intense look on her face. Meanwhile, Billy Abbott and Jack Abbott will have a big fight over Abbott Communications, so Billy will decide to end their partnership and hint about getting Kane Ashby to invest instead. Next, Nick will lash out at Phyllis Summers for throwing away their history and friendship to protect Kane, but she'll deny doing that. Phyllis will suggest maybe someone wants to frame both Kane and Nick, but Nick will act like she's betraying him for the sake of a job. After Nick spills news on the erased security footage, he'll announce his plan to climb down the mountain and get the authorities. Phyllis will try to talk Nick out of it, but he'll stick to his plan. Once Nick makes it back to his sleeping car to prepare for his journey, Sharon will pop up and insist on going with him. Carter and a burly guard will arrive soon after, so Nick will learn he's being placed under house arrest for Kane's safety and for the other guests' peace of mind. Nick will point out that Carter doesn't have the authority to do this, but Carter will warn Nick not to make the guard draw his weapon. Sharon will make her presence known, so Carter will insist she'll have to accompany them and that they have no choice in the matter. In other words, Carter will make Nick and Sharon his prisoners, and there'll be nothing they can do about it. Once Phyllis meets up with Billy, she'll insist she truly believes Kane is innocent. Since Billy wants Chancellor and Phyllis wants a job, they'll come together to form an alliance. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, July 22nd, reveal that danger will erupt for trapped Nick Newman and Sharon Newman, while Kane Ashby faces a fierce warning. For starters, Nikki Newman will corner Kane and lay down the law. When it comes to Nikki's children, she'll always do whatever it takes to protect them, so she'll make that crystal clear to Kane. Nikki may also remind Kane that Victor Newman is a very powerful man and not someone to be messed with. Kane may once again deny killing Damian Kane and framing Nick, but Nikki will put him on notice anyway. If Nikki ultimately discovers that Nick is missing, that could give her another reason to lash out. Kane may not even realize that Carter has put Nick and Sharon on house arrest, but they'll indeed be locked up together on Tuesday's episode. Once Sharon and Nick are trapped in a room somewhere, there'll definitely be some danger. Whether that's due to the armed guard or perhaps the killer, more trouble is brewing in Nice. Nick will get wounded later during the week of July 21st, 25, so YNR will lay the groundwork for the chaos with some ominous moments in the meantime. Over with Victor, he'll warn Audra Charles that he expects the Kyle Abbott and Claire Newman breakup he was promised. If Audra can't deliver that split, she can kiss the idea of any Vibrante funding goodbye. This could mean devastating news for Audra's career and all the success she was aiming for. Despite the fact that Kyle's onto her latest scheme, Audra may not give up. It's possible Audra will find another way to tear Kyle and Audra apart if she plays her cards right. The Young and the Restless scoop for Monday, July 21st, reveals Kyle Abbott will know exactly what Audra Charles is up to. Also coming up, Jack Abbott will be stunned by Billy Abbott's decision. Plus, Carter will place Nick Newman and Sharon Newman under house arrest, and Phyllis Summers will continue to defend Kane Ashby. YNR spoilers tease Nick will return to the main train car, and Phyllis will demand an apology. "You demand an apology?" he'll ask. Phyllis will say Kane's not a killer. "I've got evidence that proves it," Nick will reply. He'll add that Kane erased security footage, but Phyllis will say it's convenient for the killer, not for Kane. Nick will say the authorities aren't there, so he's heading down the mountain to get them. "No, Nick, please don't do that," Phyllis will say. Sharon will tell Phyllis she seems to be going out of her way to back up Kane, but Phyllis will say the killer could be framing both Nick and Kane. "I want some professionals up here to figure this out, not Kane," he'll reply and storm off to his room. Then Sharon will come to his door. "I hope you're not here to try and stop me," he'll say. Not a chance, she'll reply. I'm coming with you. But Carter will come to the door and put Nick under house arrest, so Nick will tell him and his goon to move out of his way. My advice to you is to come peacefully, Carter will reply. However, Sharon will show herself and tell Nick she'll alert Victor Newman. Carter will say he wasn't aware she was there, and Sharon will tell him she heard everything. I'm afraid you're going to have to accompany us as well, Carter will reply. In the garden area, Jack will ask Billy what he makes of everything. He'll wonder what prompted Nick to go after Kane, but Billy won't want to talk about it. I'm more concerned about our conversation, he'll say. Let's dig into that. So Jack will remind his brother he signed Abedit communications over to Sally Spectra without even consulting him. This is about your quest to get Chancellor back at any cost. Billy will admit it and ask Jack if he wants out of his investment. You want me to be honest, he'll reply. Abbott Communications is a non-starter without me. You can't even open the damn doors without my backing. So Billy will say he's pulling out of their partnership and he'll find a new investor. Kane can buy you out, I'll go my way, you go yours. Meanwhile, Kyle and Audra will continue to make out. Audra will smile coyly at him, and she'll maneuver him over to his bed. She'll moan as he kisses her neck. Then Kyle will pull away. I'm on to you, Audra, he'll whisper in her ear. She'll ask what he means. Do you actually believe I planned coming here at the crack of dawn to seduce you? Audra will ask. I was vulnerable. I was scared. What happened just now was spontaneous. Kyle will say that nothing she ever does is spontaneous, and this is low, even for her. Using your boyfriend's brother's death as a way to get me into bed? But Audra will push back. How dare you accuse me of using Damien's death to seduce you? She'll add that she's insulted. If you hadn't pulled back first, I would have done it. Kyle will ask why she just can't admit he beat her this time. You and Victor, he's the one who's been pulling the strings all along, he'll add. You were trying to split me and Claire up all along, weren't you? Of course, Audra will deny it. Kyle will say he wanted to know how far she'd go. And today I got my answer, he'll tell her. You were willing to go all the way. Finally, Audra will say perhaps he convinced himself he wasn't into her, but she knows better. Everyone else saw it. It wasn't just me. Kyle will say he had to play a role to make it look good. But now it's over. Then he'll kick her out of his room. Keep reading The Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless Spoilers and News, and make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Nikki Newman may panic as a killer cliffhanger strikes. Who will come to Nikki's rescue once she finds herself cornered in Nice? The week of July 21st, 25 will be packed with even more drama since the murderer still hasn't been caught. Damien Kane's killer remains free and could commit more crimes, so there are good reasons to be concerned. After Carter forces Nick Newman and Sharon Newman on house arrest, Nick will plot an escape that ends with a twist. Nick's going to get hurt during his getaway attempt, but at least he'll have Sharon and eventually Sally Spectra to help in the bloody aftermath. It's possible Nick will land in the killer's path, though it's also possible a security guard will put his weapon to good use on Nick. Either way, Nick won't be the only one who's in grave danger. By the time the July 25th episode wraps up, Nikki will find herself feeling cornered and terrified. Will Nikki spy someone coming after her from the shadows or something along those lines? It's easy to imagine Nikki screaming or begging for her life if she senses someone stepping forward to get rid of her. If Nikki does become a target, she might suspect Kane, since she's been hindering his Chancellor goals. Regardless, it sounds like some danger is indeed headed Nikki's way. Y&R could be setting the stage for a jaw-dropping cliffhanger, so who will come to Nikki's rescue when all hope seems lost? Could it be Victor Newman, who botches the killer's next move since Y&R spoilers say he'll take charge of some erupting drama? That's one option to consider. Sally and Billy Abbott will also step up for an innocent victim soon, but that may tie in with Nick's situation. As for Nikki, could Kane show off some bravery to save her and throw off the killer's plans? It might help prove Kane's innocence if he does something big and bold for Nikki's sake. The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest many fans have wanted to see Nick Newman and Lily Winters in a romance for a while now. Could their common hate-on for Kane Ashby be the very thing that bonds them and forges a love story between the two? Team Chic fans would disagree with the pairing of Nick and Lily, but it doesn't seem as if Sharon Newman and Nick are headed toward anything more than just friends and co-parents. If they are, the slow burn of this reunion is fizzling fast. Still, there have been hints that Lily and Nick could come together. After all, Lily has made it clear that a reunion with Kane is completely out of the question. Plus, Kane also seems to be getting closer to Phyllis Summers. With someone out to frame Nick for Damian Kane's stabbing, and the animosity growing between Kane and Nick, it's hard not to see Nick gravitating toward Lily during all the chaos unraveling in Nice. Nick literally caught Lily upon learning that Damian had passed. As the gurney rolled Damian's lifeless body out of the maze, Lily lost her footing in her shock, and Nick was there to grab the woman. And boy, did he hold on tight. It does feel as if a rivalry is brewing between Kane and Nick. After all, Kane asked Phyllis point blank if she would be willing to betray Nick when she begged him for a job, and Phyllis agreed. Now, Kane could have simply singled out Nick because he knew how close Phyllis and her ex are. However, what if Kane has bigger plans for Nick, specifically? Could this feud with Kane bond Nick to Lily, as both commiserate over Kane's antics? Could a romance emerge? The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Lily Winters and Phyllis Summers will have a fierce face-off over Kane Ashby. So could the show be offering a new love triangle preview? Kane has given Lily plenty of reasons to distrust him since he forgave Colin Atkinson before his death and started living a double life. Considering all the Aristotle Dumas deception, it's not surprising that Lily has trust issues. That said, Lily was struggling with her feelings for Kane before Damian Kane's demise. That was evident in the dreams Lily was having behind closed doors. Of course, Lily's world was thrown into turmoil when she found out Damian was dead. Now, Lily's holding Kane's unpredictable behavior against him and standing firm in her accusations about her ex being a murderer. It's Phyllis Summers who's refusing to buy that Kane caused Damian's grim fate, so she'll urge Lily to see things her way during the week of July 21st, 25. Lily and Phyllis have a heated showdown coming up, so Kane will certainly be the source of conflict. Despite Phyllis' passionate defense of Kane, Lily's going to dig her heels in when it comes to Kane's guilt. It's an interesting situation since Lily has such a powerful history with Kane, while Phyllis represents the opportunity for something new. There's no denying that Phyllis has been a little over the top when it comes to defending Kane. Why is Phyllis so determined to believe in Kane's innocence? This feels like more than just wanting to lock in a job. It feels personal, so Y&R could be laying the groundwork for Phyllis and Kane's potential romance. Before Phyllis even went to Nice, the Young and the Restless spoilers hinted that she was poised for both a business victory and a romantic victory. Getting together with Kane could accomplish both of those wins. If the show does play around with the idea of a Kane and Phyllis pairing, you can bet Lily will be jealous. Kane's name will be cleared sooner or later, so Lily will realize he's not the monster she thought he was. Lily might even determine that she wanted to think the worst of Kane to shut down the feelings that were already bubbling up. Even if Lily continues to resist those feelings, watching Kane move on could bring some tough emotions. It was a deadly week for the Janao City elite. The Young and the Restless turned up the heat from July 21st, 25, with shocking twists and juicy drama that left fans reeling. It was a killer week on Y&R, with Monday kicking off the murder mystery of the year. Not only did Kane and Damian drink poison together, but when it didn't work and take them out, a knife flew through the air right into Damian's back. It was a shocking death that left Kane reeling, and Phyllis too, who just happened to be right around the corner. By Tuesday, everyone was in the know, and poor Lily felt her heart break. She and Damian were barely a couple, but his death has rattled her to the core. Chance immediately got to work hunting for a killer, but much to everyone's surprise, all signs pointed to Nick. Well, at least the knife did. He found it in his room on Tuesday and was flabbergasted over how it got there, who put it there, and why he was being set up. Will he be able to clear his name, though? Surely, the great Victor Newman will throw all the money he can at this problem and make sure the real killer is caught, right? Audra finally got what she wanted on Friday when she and Kyle locked lips. Did they do more? Oh, we're sure of it. In fact, we're hoping for it. A little tryst overseas is just what everyone needs to heat up the drama. What's a few secrets between enemies, especially those of the bedroom variety? Will Kyle live to regret playing nice with his former flame? We're sure of that, too. He's been on that high horse for way too long, though, and it will be nice to watch him get knocked down a peg or two. Let's just hope, for both their sakes, they just get knocked around by this twisted little affair and not knocked up. A surprise pregnancy would most definitely change everything. The Young and the Restless spoilers are in for Monday, July 21st, 2025. Fans can expect Jack Abbott to be blindsided. Phyllis Summers protects her own interests. Plus, Kyle Abbott calls Audra Charles bluff. Keep reading, and let's talk about what is coming up in the next episode of the CBS soap opera. Let's begin with Billy Abbott, who will keep making bad decisions and justifying his actions. Billy is so resentful and bitter. Jack has given him funding for a new company of his own. Now Jack realizes that Billy only cares about getting revenge. It seems that Billy will make another risky move. It is stated that on Monday, July 21st, Jack will be blindsided by another one of Billy's bad decisions. With a man dead, this isn't really the time to be making bold moves. It could also make Jack wonder if Billy could be guilty. The Young and the Restless spoilers for the next episode reveal that Phyllis will take action to protect herself. Phyllis told Chance Chancellor and others that Kane Ashby was with her the entire time, from Damian Kane's death to finding Chance. However, that's not true. While Kane went to find Chance, Phyllis was supposed to stay with the body. However, fans know that Phyllis ran off soon afterward. Phyllis might be trying to prove how far she will go for Kane. However, with one man dead, I'm wondering why no one is worried they will be next. What if this isn't a revenge scheme, but a psychopath? Over with Audra, she will get called out by Kyle. After their passionate romp, Kyle could blame Audra for setting him up. While that was Audra's job, I feel like this particular incident was just overwhelming emotions. In any case, Kyle and Audra need to get on the same page. Will they confess to Nate Hastings or Claire Grace Newman? Or will they agree to keep this a secret? Even so, not everything that happens in Nice will stay in Nice. There is also a preview clip that shows Audra and Lily Winters facing possible danger. Could there be another stabbing, or is everyone just on edge? Which storyline are you looking forward to seeing the most on Monday, July 21st, 2025? Young and the Restless spoilers see Nick Newman facing arrest over a murder, and Kane Ashby seeming to tamper with evidence. We've got the latest Y&R spoilers for the week of July 21st, so, by the end of this week, Damian's murder has everybody on edge, with most people at the chateau suspecting that Kane did the dirty deed and Nick is being framed for it. So, as Y&R ends this week, Nick is still flipping out over the knife being planted in his rail car, and while Jack Abbott thinks it's insane to even think Nick would do this, Billy Abbott is not so sure. He thinks it is plausible that his ex-brother Nick might have stabbed Damian Kane, and that's kind of an awful way to think. I mean, I think Victoria Newman would be very mad to hear Billy even say that about her brother Nick. So Nick, of course, thinks that Kane is framing him and is keeping the French police away from the scene of the crime to buy time to clean up and destroy evidence like DNA and stuff. Nick thinks because the cops weren't called, and we've just got out of jurisdiction, chance they are doing stuff that all the evidence has been corrupted. Maybe it's lost. Clearly things have moved around. And Nick also thinks that Kane absolutely killed Damian, and he's getting upset when Phyllis Summers doubts what he is saying, what Nick is saying about Kane that he did it. Then Nick is lashing out, and he's actually accusing Phyllis of basically believing in the other guy for no reason and kind of selling her soul to have this job with Kane. And of course, Sharon Newman is all on Team Nick, all on his side, and Phyllis insists that all Kane got was a broken heart by Lily Winters, and he does not deserve these murder accusations. That's making her ex-husband real unhappy. And Nick says that Phyllis is going to sit there and watch her new boss Kane send him to jail for a crime that Nick didn't commit. Then, Phyllis also defended Kane, saying to Nick, "Look, Kane was with me, so he couldn't have been the one who planted the dagger in your rail car." And bottom line, Phyllis doesn't want to fight with Nick, but he's all wound up and he's being Mr. Poopy Pants, and he stomps away. This is his mode that I call Nick the Stick, where he's got something up his backside. However, in this case, he's justified, because he is being framed for murder. So Sharon's actually being nice to Phyllis, who again says Kane's innocent. She says she could tell he's not guilty just by the look on his face. And Sharon and Phyllis are debating at the end of the week on Young and the Restless who would frame Nick for Damien's murder. Phyllis and Sharon think that the Abbotts and the Winters would not be doing this, so they wouldn't be framing Nick. And in Phyllis' mind, she's thinking that that leaves Sally Spectra. You know, Sharon's talking about Audra Charles, and they're talking about the people that work for Kane, including Carter and Amanda Sinclair. And we know there's some other random staff kicking around. But next week, things are going to get much worse for Nick Newman. So, first of all, his dad, Victor Newman, is not happy about the framing and all this, and he is grilling Kane's assistant, that sneaky little guy, Carter. Victor is basically accusing Kane of killing Damien and wants to know from Carter if Kane confided in him his plan to murder Damien Kane. And Carter is telling Victor that he would do anything for Kane. But not that, not what Victor's suggesting. So Nick's dad is clearly very worried about the frame job. And also next week, Carter shows up at Nick's door on the rail car and he's got a security guard with him. So Nick's not happy and is like telling Carter, "What do you want?" Nick's already mad, and Carter says they are going to place Nick under arrest. Now again, it's just a security guard, so they're calling it house arrest. But with real cops on the way, this could turn into a real arrest. And Carter tells Nick that taking him into custody is for Kane's safety and the peace of mind of the rest of the guests. I don't think any of the other guests are worried Nick's going to murder them. And you know this is not going to go over well with Nick, because they're basically coming to his door and saying, "We think you killed Damien, and we think you're still plotting to kill Kane." So, speaking of Lily Winter's ex-husband, Chance Chancellor and Kane are together reviewing all the security footage from those cameras he's got placed all around the property. And then when it gets to the location in the maze and the time of the murder, well, there's no footage. Looks like the cameras were turned off or something was deleted. So, Chance wants to know who has access to this area, and Kane's like, "You know, me and Carter and Amanda." So, Chance assumes that it's either Carter or Amanda that deleted some of this footage. Kane insists it's not him, because he said the footage would have proved that he's innocent. And based on what we saw in the episode, yeah, it would have. And so next week, Amanda comes into Kane's office where the camera feeds are. She sees him going back through all the security footage. So, Amanda asks Kane what he's doing. He says he is trying to find the footage. But Amanda is worried that Kane is in there deleting footage that might be evidence. And Amanda tells Kane that's the worst thing he can do. But interestingly, he actually thinks Amanda was the one deleting footage. So that means it could be Carter doing it, since both Amanda and Kane, if they're being truthful, they're telling each other that they're not the ones doing it. And Carter seems like a dodgy dude. Also, there's more danger afoot next week on Young and the Restless. At the end of this week, Chance Chancellor tells Nick that some of the surveillance footage is missing. And of course, Nick totally loses it. Then he says that Kane is manipulating and setting up things. Nick wants Chance to do something, but of course, he's got no jurisdiction. And then Kane walks up on them. Nick promises he's going to get to the bottom of this before. This is important, before someone else is hurt or killed. So, there is more danger next week. Somebody is watching other guests and lurking kind of like they were before the attack on Damien. And next week, we're going to see Audra and Lily possibly in danger. But hey, if you haven't seen Friday's episode yet, also just real quick, you know what? Audra is so upset about the murder that she goes to tell Kyle Abbott that Damien was killed. And guess what? Kyle answers the door, dripping wet in this low-slung towel, all the abs on display, nothing else on. And Audra is acting all scared, which seems legit. She is. But then she tells Kyle that she feels safe with him. And Audra and Kyle start kissing. We knew they were going to cross lines this week. So next week, we'll find out just how far that went. And also, next week, Audra Charles is in the maze with Lily Winters, and they hear something, and Audra seems really scared, and she's calling out who's there. And she was already scared, before, and then she got that kiss from Kyle that seemed to calm her down. Now she's scared again. The good news is that Audra is in the same dress in these scenes with Lily that she was when she was making out with Kyle. So hopefully that dress stays on, and Audra and Kyle don't go further than kissing. We'll see. A little over a month ago, The Young and the Restless had several prominent Genoa City residents fly to Nice, France, so they could attend a gala put on by the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas. While it probably hasn't been over 30 days for the characters, as one day can span several episodes, we're guessing that Jack, Victor, Devon, Lily, et.al. must feel like they've been there for a year. Of the many stories that have been unfolding, the most significant one, especially for Damien, has been Damien's death. We have to admit, we were gobsmacked by the character being bumped off. After all, the show had months or years to play out a Damien-Lily-Kane triangle. Lily, by her admission, partially kissed Damien to get under Kane's skin. Later, she shared that the feelings were genuine. So why kill off Damien? This is one of many questions we're asking. Nick Newman appears to be the audience's voice. He already commented on how the trip jumped the shark, after Lily shares that Kane felt his life was in danger. Nick may not have the most business sense in Genoa City, but he certainly appears to have the most common sense. He's asking questions that the audience is likely wondering about too. For example, if Kane was so concerned about his life, why didn't he hire an entire security team and not just invite Chance, a lawman with zero jurisdiction in Nice, France, to help him? Nick's fed up with what's going on. When he says that he's prepared to walk down the side of a mountain to get away from Kane's place, we believe him. Speaking of poor Damien and his developing romance with Lily, we have to wonder why she had a delayed reaction to his death. Sure, we all process grief differently, but it wasn't till an episode or so after Damien's murder that Lily began to cry. Well, we answered our question. Many attest to the belief that grief is not linear. We don't have an idea of just how vast Kane's estate is. The establishing shots show that it's pretty big, but the train cabins that everyone is sleeping in are all connected. So, why is it taking so long for news to travel? You'd think Damien's death, no, his murder, would have shot through the train from the locomotive to the caboose like a runaway drink cart with unlocked brakes on it. Sure, we get that not everyone can be in every episode. And no, we don't want to hear that reactions to Damien's passing occurred off camera. But still, isn't there an intercom system on the train? Why is Sally off swimming by herself with Damien being dead? The last thing someone should do, as we all learned in teen slasher movies, is to go off by yourself. Well, maybe Carter was with her. Wait, one of the more touching reactions to Damien's death came from Audra. We sensed her sadness for Amy, and Nate was genuine. After all, Audra noted, Amy likely found strength from her renewed relationship with her son. How is she going to take the news of his murder? And when will she find out? Maybe Kane could hop on another jet and zip over to Genoa City. The least the billionaire could do is pick up the rest of Amy's healthcare and make sure she's taken care of for the rest of her life. After all, Kane believes that he was the intended target. While Audra's reaction to Damien's death touched us, Billy's cavalier attitude caused a chill to go up our collective spines. No, the two men weren't close, but Billy was acting casually about the loss of life. Just how badly does he want control of Chancellor Industries back? He needs to take a lesson from Audra about true compassion, though the cynics among us are wondering if Audra leaned into her grief and concern so that she could get comfort from Kyle. The Abbott heir had better hope he doesn't have to face Judge Judy if he decides to someday fight having to pay Victor Newman $5 million for breaking Claire's heart. First, we still think it's viable that Claire is going to break Kyle's heart, given the amount of time she's spending with Holden. Maybe Claire will understand Kyle and Audra sharing a kiss in a moment of weakness and grief. Here's hoping that Kyle understands Claire might need to do the same in light of Cole dying. But back to Judge Judy. We can just hear her now blasting Kyle in her courtroom over signing a ridiculous contract with Victor thinking he'd be swayed by the gesture, and B, not putting a shirt on when Audra came to his door. Insert facepalm emoji here. Does Kyle not know what's at stake here? We're not just talking about the $5 million, we're talking about the $5 million Claire's heart. Kyle knows that Audra is in a financial bed with Victor, and her sexual innuendos have been anything but subtle. Kyle has been playing with fire ever since he boarded Kane's train. We don't blame Kyle for showing some human compassion to Audra, but maybe, just maybe, he could have done it with his train cabin door open and his shirt on. Speaking of physiques, in what world could someone think that their knife would magically pass through Damien's broad shoulders and hit Kane? The two men were not changing their positions before the attack occurred. Damien had his back to the killer. There was no way the killer didn't know what she was doing. Plus, once forensics show that the knife wound in Damien's back meant that the blade had to be thrown with significant force, we think Kane will be cleared. The cameras show that Kane and Damien were too close to each other for Kane to be the killer. Kyle had better hope that Kane was telling Chance the truth about not having cameras on in the train cabins. If Audra were to say that Kyle kissed her, she better not leave out that he was only trying to comfort her because she was distraught about Damien's death. Kane's guests may feel that this whole trip has been a horrible dream, and who knows, maybe it is. Both Nikki and Lily have had nightmares during their stay. Lily dreamed of kissing Damien, only to see the man before her turn into Kane. Later, Nikki had a dream that she was unable to help her children, Victoria and Nicholas. Maybe this has all been on Big Nightmare? Soap fans have been using this theory about their shows ever since Dallas explained away an entire series as Pam's dream. This was all to explain away Bobby's on-screen death that had occurred at the end of Season 8. If Y&R were to go down this path, and let's face it, not a ton has happened since Damien's death, so the show could do this. It's possible that not only might Damien be alive, but Cole would be too. This tracks especially if it's been Nikki's dream. Her fear for Victoria could have manifested in having a nightmare that Cole had died, and her daughter needed her. We got a chuckle out of Phyllis, asking Sharon about how long their truce was going to last. We give kudos to Y&R for not forgetting this plot point. Too often, on soaps, we see a lack of continuity as characters interact with one another, conveniently forgetting what had gone on before. So it's nice to hear occasional references to this ticking time bomb. We know that when Sharon and Phyllis toss out their new understanding that it's going to be epic. In the meantime, we're looking forward to finding out who killed Demain. Our money is on Carter. We don't know much about him, but outside of Kane, nobody else has a motive. Uh-oh, is a baby twist coming? Just when you thought Genoa City couldn't get any messier, Audra just upped the ante. On The Young and the Restless, July 18th episode, Audra found herself tangled in the sheets with Kyle. While this is all part of her and Victor's grand plan, and the fallout could shake the Abbott family tree to its roots. As if the affair isn't bad enough, this romp in the hay has many layers of betrayal. Not only is Audra basically living with Nate, but Kyle isn't exactly a free agent either. He's been dating Claire and planning a whole future with her. This little comfort session with Audra isn't just a whole cheating scandal. It's potentially the opening act for Genoa City's next big baby bombshell. If Audra ends up pregnant, we're talking full-blown soap opera fireworks. Claire would be devastated if her new relationship implodes thanks to Audra's scheming. It may even unlock that darkness inside of her that she's managed to keep relatively suppressed so far. Oh, and we can't forget the storm that will be Kyle's ex-wife. Summer might act like she's over Kyle, but watching her cousin deal with Audra as a baby mama could unleash old rivalries. She nearly ripped Audra to shreds the last time she was sniffing around Kyle, so to find out she's carrying his child, Summer's head would practically explode. And don't underestimate Diane's rage. The idea of Audra carrying her grandchild would send Diane into orbit. Jack wouldn't handle it well either, especially if Audra uses a baby to gain leverage at Jabot. After all, Audra's track record proves she's not afraid to weaponize her relationships. We can't see the great Victor Newman being too pleased either. Sure, he basically ordered Audra to bed his enemy's son, but getting pregnant wasn't exactly in the plans. Will he backtrack with his promises if Audra ends up being the mother to the newest little Abbott? As for Audra, don't think she'll be in the clear on her end. Nate will for sure have a nuclear breakdown and kick Audra to the curb. He enjoys her, he's fought for her, but he's not one to be a doormat. Unless, of course, Audra tries to pass the child off as him. Just imagine poor Nate unknowingly raising another man's baby, only to find out months, or even years, later that it was all a lie. In true Y&R fashion, expect the unexpected. A paternity test, secret alliances, and a family war between the Audra and the Abbotts could be right around the corner. Audra doesn't play games unless she's planning to win.